Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Carla from the Shadow Minister. I'm the Shadow Minister of English Literacy. I just got the job, so give me a chance to get used to it. It's part of the Insan Party, which Rehan Awawala has created in order to connect people to their government using digital means. And when we use this, it gives us a chance to say what we think and how we feel and helps us grow. Well, today I am here to talk to Shireen Khan, who I've known for maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
And she is an English teacher as well as a life coach. And she has some definite thoughts about the need of English. Now, the minister, Carla, me as the minister, I just want to come out and say it now, and probably will say it again, that English is a means for you to communicate with people around the world. It is not a means for you to just speak English and never speak Urdu or any language that you have been born with. Keep your culture alive. Shireen, could you please introduce yourself?
Greetings. My name is Shireen Khan and I'm from Pakistan. But I'm not entirely Pakistani because my mother is Turkish. So I'm half Turkish and half Pakistani. And I've been teaching people English for now more than 25 years. And I've worked with diverse audiences. There have been grassroots level people, there have been students of young age, and even university students, elderly people as well. So, working with all these diverse audiences, I've come to realize that English is not just a medium of a language, like it's not just a different language, it's a way of expression. Every language has its own personality and character, and so does English. So, the more languages we know, the more we are able to express ourselves in different way, communicate in different way. It just builds up your personality in diverse ways.
Now, why do you feel that English is an important language for people to know?
I feel it's important for people to know this language because obviously it's a universal language. A major number of people in the world speak this language. So it sort of becomes a bridge when people don't know the national language of who they're communicating with. Like if there are people from two different parts of the world, like you are from US, I'm from Pakistan, but together we have bridged that gap of miles and miles just because we know the same language.
Right. And today, in the world today, why is it so important?
It's so important. Again, number one, it bridges the gap. Number two, it helps us to link to so many people. And finally, the thing which I feel most important is it has its own way of expression. So, by learning this language, we are able to communicate in ways that are different from what we talk in our national language. So it teaches us a whole different way, whether we are using proverbs, idioms, or even if it's like general conversation. English has its own personality and its own mannerisms.
Can you give me an example? of
Yeah,
what you
the
say.
uh, most most easiest example to understand is like in English, it's more in a way that owns responsibility. So, for example, if I make a mistake, in English we say or express, I made a mistake. Okay? So it's owning responsibility. It's not the same in Urdu language. I can't translate it word for word, but in Urdu, when we are saying the same thing, it's like it just happened. So it's a way of expression. In Urdu, there is no word which will say that I made a mistake or it just happened. मुझसे हो गई गलती. That's what we say in Urdu. It happened.
Okay, when you say it happened in Urdu, how do people react to it? Okay, let's say, go on.
Yeah, in English or in Urdu?
I want you to explain the Urdu difference
Okay.
because what's going on is that we're asking people to learn to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Why, you know, I talk to people every day, you know that in English,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
people from your country.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have learned by doing that is that many people, I think they understand me. Even the people who are very close to me, I think, understand me. And
Mm-hmm.
then I find out they may not understand what I'm saying. And they may not understand because the language is different,
Mm-hmm.
the understanding. So I actually would like to talk about that a little.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's start with when you began. It happened.
Yeah.
What does that really mean to someone who's hearing those words in Urdu?
So in Urdu, it's a way of expression that uh, I didn't do it deliberately, or it takes in a way that I had nothing to do with it. Somebody else caused it. The ownership is not there. It's just not there. In English, it's I made a mistake, whereas in Urdu, that's now not how it goes. Like
Okay,
that's the easiest example.
if you were talking, and I want to go back to what this person wrote in a
Yeah,
moment. If
yeah.
you were talking to me and maybe you said something that meant something different than
Mhm,
what I thought it meant, how
mhm.
would you express it in Urdu to someone, to another person?
Uh,
And would they understand that you made a mistake? Or would they think something else happened?
uh, since if I'm talking to someone in Urdu, they would understand because that's how we say it, and nobody feels it that way. But because I've been as a life coach and NLP based life coach, so words have become very, very important for me. And each word and each expression I have come to learn means something and impacts in a certain way. So now I've grown very sensitive to it. And because I know uh, at least one more language, which is Turkish, it just expands the way how I look at things and how I understand things. Because I can translate those in my mind and I can see uh, what I'm saying and how am I expressing what I want to say and how is it impacting the other people. Sometimes the other people don't realize it, as much as I do, because I've been trained with these words and how to use words and phrasing and rephrasing and all that.
So, is it possible? Um, I'm kind of hooked on this ism thing. Um, is it possible that what you're saying may, or what I would be saying, could be misinterpreted and misunderstood very easily?
Yeah, because I'll tell you a very simple example. When my son was young, uh, what he used to say is, in his mind, he used to translate the English phrase, I made a mistake, into Urdu. So the Urdu alternate is, uh, मैंने गलती बनाई. It was like he made something. He made a mistake. Since there is no alternate word as such for this small sentence, you just say that this is something that I made, as if he made some toy or he made some origami or something. So that's what I explained to him, that that's not how you translate it. So it's what people are talking in English by first thinking in Urdu, and it's alternate, uh, because sometimes people are thinking in English and writing in Urdu. Like, since our uh, kids learn about 6 to 7 subjects in English only, they are so conditioned and used to thinking in English. When they are writing in Urdu, they have to first think in English because they are more practiced and fluent in thinking in English. So they think in English. That's how my kids have been, all 5 of them. They first used to think in English and then write in Urdu. So the sequence is totally different when it's written in English and Urdu. For example, it's subject, verb, object. That is noun, verb, and then the object. In easiest terms, it would be who did what. That's how we speak in English. Any narrative is spoken in that way. But in Urdu, the verb comes in the end. So the noun is there, the object is there, like the subject and object comes first, or the object and subject comes first, and the verb comes in the end. So we cannot translate word for word. It's just not possible.
Hmm.
And that's where people, especially the new learners, whether they are learning to write or read or speak, that is where they get confused because they try to translate everything word for word.
And that's how I thought it was. You just translate word for word. This is very new to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know when you're saying how are you is ape kaya ho, or is that right? Am I
Sort of. आप कैसे हैं? आप कैसे हैं? तुम कैसे हो?
okay?
How are you? Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah. So in Urdu, there are 2 common ways of speaking, which are obviously the formal and the informal manner of expression. In English, there's just one. It's you. So you can be used as formal or informal. In Urdu, there are 2 different ways. That's the same with Turkish also.
So if someone is speaking to you, it could
Mm-hmm.
even be you speaking to me, and
Yeah.
I say something,
Mm-hmm.
you may not necessarily hear it the same way I hear it.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. Yes, in a way, because uh, they would not know whether you are saying it in a respectful manner or as a formal manner, or whether you are being just informal and speaking in a casual way. That happens.
So
It will
if
take a long time before the conversation goes further and they can uh, understand what are you trying to say, or what is your tone of speaking, what's in your mind. It will take a while.
so it may not even be speaking, it could be writing uh,
Yes.
a text message
Oh
where
yes.
it's
Oh yes.
completely out of control.
Yes.
Have you found that happen for you when you're
Oh
writing
yes.
a message?
Oh yes. Definitely. So now what I do is when I'm sending a text message, I make sure that my intention is mentioned there, because especially if you are using WhatsApp or a messenger, what I do is I write my intention first. Like just a little while ago when you asked me uh, about altering the time, I said sure 15 minutes would be okay. If I was speaking, I would say sure I can delay it, and I don't know, she might think that by delaying I'm saying we can do it tomorrow, which was not possible. So I made sure that I mentioned it there. So even if you did not switch your phone on, anytime you see the message, that one line that is there shows the exact intention that 15 minutes delay is okay.
I didn't notice that. I'll be honest. I was trying so hard to get here.
Yeah, I understand. But it really makes a difference when you're writing and where you're writing. Like if it's an academic writing, things are written in a different way, because I help people write also. So whether it's content writing, ad writing, or whether it's like essay writing, descriptive writing for school, for history, geography. So doing that, helping people write and express in different ways, it has just helped me to understand different ways of thinking, because every expression has its own requirements and prerequisites.
It makes me, I have some very, I have friends in Pakistan now. And there are times I write a message and it's totally confused. And I say, you didn't understand me.
Hmm.
And I think part of that comes because people are afraid to say, hey, I don't understand your English,
Yeah,
or I don't understand what you wrote. How,
yeah.
what do you think needs to be done to bring that together again? Bring an
Uh,
understanding.
in one sentence, people need to practice English better. That's the easiest way, because until and unless we think in English, we cannot understand what a native English speaker is saying. Because in our mind, we are translating it word for word in Urdu, and it does not make sense, because the verb is in the different position, the entire structure is different. So it takes the mind some while and a little bit overwhelm, or a lot of overwhelm, if they have not practiced well. So practice, practice, practice is the key to understanding the language, to know how to express better. It's just as simple as that. Practice is the only way. Just like you uh, like tirelessly keep on telling people, if you want to improve in English, you must speak in English. You cannot learn speaking by texting and typing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And you
it's
can't.
it's the same thing. It's that only. It's not translating word for word in your mind, and it cannot be improved upon by translating it in your mind in another language, no matter what language you use.
That's interesting. Um, it puts a new light on text messaging someone who is not a native English speaker,
Yeah,
because sometimes I feel when people send me a message, I said this clearly. What don't you understand?
yeah,
And yet, there may really be a misunderstanding, a misknowledge that
yeah,
I never realized.
exactly. Because they're translating it in their mind, word for word. So they're trying to understand in their language what you're trying to say, and it would just at times come out as totally rude, or it would be something like, what? What's she saying? And they'll be just totally confused. Either they'll uh, say that no, that's not how I meant to say this, and they'll just it will be like lengthy, useless conversation just because they don't have the skill because they haven't practiced.
It's, I mean, this really hits home for me
Thank you.
because, you know, in my conversations with people I know and people who are very close to me, I find that at times I'm like, I don't get it. What
Hmm.
don't you understand? And yet, it seems that, this is really not translating, but actually thinking in the language, in another language.
Yes,
Is
yes,
that when English becomes more real to you, or
yes, exactly.
like when you're talking to me now, are you actually thinking in English, or are you thinking in Urdu and turning it into English?
No, no, I'm thinking in English because again, I have been part of the same education system where we were learning 6 to 7 subjects in English. So I'm much more comfortable in English. So when I'm writing something in Urdu, then I write in a way that's uh, like usually written in the Urdu newspapers or the difficult Urdu, which is more academic and not very informal. So people say, "Why are you speaking? Or why do you write in such difficult Urdu?" And I say, "I just sort of don't quite know how to write in an informal way." Or if I'm speaking, it will be more of an academic nature. Uh, if it's like talking on a specific subject or uh, talking about some academic topic, it's slightly difficult. It's not very candid when I'm speaking in Urdu. So English for me is more like first language because I've used it so much. I've learned almost every subject in English. So that's how I think in English when I'm speaking in English.
Now, this Barrere Ellie Hussein, who I think I've met, pretty sure I met him, says listening to a native speaker also helps. Do you find that to be true?
Yes, definitely. And how I would say it's true because my mother loves English movies. Even my father-in-law loved English movies, but both of them were not good at English. So it was my responsibility, or it was assigned to me to uh, listen to English movies. We used to have weekend movies on our local television. So I was given the task to sit through and listen carefully and translate it and tell them what's happening, each dialogue after dialogue. So that really helped to improve my listening. And it just not only improves the listening, it helps us to understand the sentence structures, conversation structures, paragraph structures automatically. So without knowing the theory of grammar, I was able to understand the language, I was able to communicate and express and learn how to communicate. You know, these were the things that I learned through listening. Listening is like more than 75% of learning. If we are not listening to English, whether live or whether through movies and documentaries and stuff, it's very difficult. This is something what my mentor taught me, Mr. Abbas Hussain of Teachers Development Center. He taught me this method, which is called IMLS, Integrated Model of Language Skills. And he was taught by Patricia McEldowney on this method. So this is where I learned the who did what expression. That was like another of my mentors. She was the principal of the school I was working in for a short while. And she said this is the easiest way to learn and realize the subject verb object thing. It gets too technical for me if I'm focusing on subject verb object. So who did what is easiest to teach the kids, even to the university people who are students who are not very familiar with English, even though throughout their academic life of 16, 18 years, 20 years, they've learned English. But since their concepts are not clear, they learn it too theoretically. They don't learn it from authentic text, which means like if the narrative is there, it will take them a lot of effort to decipher the technical details or the theory, because when grammar is taught to students in our schools and even in on many other platforms, it's more theory based. So they are learning individual unrelated sentences and words, which obviously the mind uh, takes a lot of time to decipher and connect the dots. But if we learn grammar through the IMLS method, like through reading through text and listening to text, then we are able to understand it so much better, because this is a method that I've been teaching for the past 7 years, and there have been teachers and students who just took one workshop, 1 hour workshop, and it has helped them clarify the concepts so well that even after a year, if I ask them for feedback, how it was, how long did it help, they say we still remember it by that 1 hour that we had 1 year ago. It's so helpful. So the current system of teaching grammar is not helping people. People are investing several thousands and hundreds and thousands of rupees and uh,
Yeah.
currency, but they are not learning it. University teachers and professors are like literally pulling their hairs off that these I can't teach them the basics. They are in university. How can I teach them something they should have learned in school? But it's not their fault. It's not the teacher's fault. That's how the system was. It worked for many people, but uh, it's not functional enough.
Wow. It makes me look at this whole thing that I'm doing in a much different way. Do when we're learning to speak, when we're learning language, we start with speaking.
Mm-hmm.
We learn to read a few years later. And even so, a year or two later, we begin to learn to write.
Yes.
Speaking is the easiest of them all.
Yeah.
Question for you, knowing that and taking that into our thought pattern, when you're learning to read, to learning a language, you're learning English, is
Hmm.
it better to start with the speaking? And
Definitely. Definitely. Because that's what Mr. Abbas taught us through practice, that listening, like listening and reading are two input skills, and speaking and writing are output skills. So unless we learn to speak, it becomes really difficult to write, because it just your ears are not used to it. So when I'm teaching people English, what I suggest them is, if they can listen to it, well and good. There are people, I have some students uh, for whom, since they use data, it's very difficult for them to listen to YouTube videos. They just cannot. It's like too expensive for them to manage. So what I suggest them is to read aloud. In this way, the ears become accustomed to the sound, to the structure of the sentence. So, reading aloud is your first step for speaking, and it also sort of adjusts or customizes, gets your mouth accustomed to speak that language. Ah, ee, oo, these words, these expressions, and it by listening to it immediately, if you're used to reading aloud and used to listening and speaking, you'll be able to correct that sentence structure in a much easier manner than to try to understand whether I'm using past participle, whether I'm using present continuous, past continuous. Like, that's not how we talk. We don't talk in theoretical language. So,
I agree. Go on.
yeah.
We're
So,
done.
like, the theory is important, obviously, definitely, but not to the extent the way it's being taught. It needs to be more practical. So the method teaches, IMLS teaches, that there are basically three types of text. One is the instructions, and in its instructions are always in present tense, and they begin with a verb. Do this, pick this, mix this, take this. So it always starts with a verb. There would never be a mistake in that. So that's one structure. The another structure is when we are doing the narrative, and in narrative it's always in past tense. People get confused because in English there are regular verbs and irregular verbs. For example, we may say that uh, I what would I say? He went there. Now, went is an irregular verb. He parked the car. Parked has an ed. So the easiest way to recognize in the text uh, whether uh, whatever is being said has a verb, is it a narrative, is to recognize that whether the verb is in past tense or not. If it's in past tense, it is definitely a narrative, because it can never be in present tense unless it's an active voice, inverted commas within inverted commas. And the third type of text is the descriptive text. And descriptive text again is in present tense. So in this way, it becomes really easy to recognize the text and then move further accordingly. The next step in this is that recognizing that when we are saying something in narrative or when we are giving an instruction, there is always a sequence. We cannot say uh, that drink the milk and then put milk in the glass. It will be obviously always first put milk in the glass, drink the milk, right? The sequence is important. Similarly, in the narration also, the sequence is important because the story goes in a certain way. There'll be an introduction, a description, and a conclusion. Just like in Who Did What. We cannot say that jumped over brown fox, lazy dog. That sentence cannot be said. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. There is a definite structure in the sentence. And similarly, the same is in text when there are more things that we are talking about. However, in description, the sequence does not matter. For example, if we are talking about coffee, coffee is a hot is a beverage. It's taken hot and cold. It's grown in Brazil. Now it doesn't matter if we mention coffee is grown in Brazil. It's taken hot and cold. The sequence will not matter. The moment this structure and this concept becomes clear, students have made such phenomenal progress in such a short time that there were students who could not afford a lot, so I used to give them 1 week uh, workshop in which I used to give them clarity of concepts, and within 7 days they made marked difference because I was working on all the four skills: listening, reading, speaking, writing. So that's how they made an improvement within 7 days. So once the structure and system is clear, the concepts are clear, and it's done through relatable sentences and text, it just becomes very easy because the structure is clear, the system is clear. Did I put you to sleep?
No, I'm listening to that and I'm actually taking it all in because it's a very important topic. And
Yeah.
for me, when I'm talking to people, I innocently think, oh, you understand what I'm saying. And recently I've gotten back to saying, okay, tell me what I said. This is a very important point. And
Oh, yes, that is so phenomenal. Thank you for saying this. Yes, this is so important.
they come back and they say to me something completely opposite of what I'm saying. And I said, no, did you understand what I said? Yeah. I'm like, think for a moment and I'll repeat part of it. Did you hear me say this? No. And it's interesting. Someone called me about something yesterday, and I answered the same question 3 times. By the third time, and I was really tired when he called, I'm like, you're not listening to me. And right now, I'm beginning to wonder, is it true that the person is not listening? Or is it more that the person doesn't understand? And when they don't understand, that's their response. Yeah, I'm listening. How do we change this? I'd love to
They are
talk.
hearing, they are not listening. They can
Right.
hear your sound, but they can't understand because they are translating it word by word in their mind, and they can understand part of the text or part of the conversation what you're saying, but they are not comprehending it.
Yeah. And that's
Because
the
we are,
point.
yeah, in comprehension also in the academic learning, when we are doing comprehension, the structure of comprehension that we are used to is we read the text, we read the question, we just sort of find that phrase within the text and a few words here and there, we change it or use it, and we write the answer. So it's just recognizing those particular set of words, copy pasting them in the answer section, and that's it. There is no comprehension.
Right.
Like I was so mind blown with this system. I am taking his name again and again because Mr. Abbas Hussain just really changed the whole uh, point of view, not only the point of view, the whole system. And he helped me understand how to make it easier for students because students struggle. And I was so taken aback with all this that I started applying it to Urdu as well because our students are struggling with Urdu as well. Although it's our mother language, it's what we speak, eat, drink, breathe every day. Still, when it comes to academic Urdu, my kids struggle. But because I know this system and I'm teaching it to people, I'm able to help them through. So when I go to the parent teachers meeting, every time uh, I'm grateful to God that they say that y- your kids have crystal clear concepts. And that's what I've been focusing on, teaching them skills and teaching them concepts more than uh, making them rote learn material which they will never use, which they'll never understand, and keep cursing the teacher, keep cursing the subject and educational system.
Everyone needs to do that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. People you think are understanding, they don't necessarily understand. You want to say,
Hmm.
oh, but you get it. And that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
They do not get it at all.
The, yeah. So what I do is if I'm talking to people with who have another language as their native language, then I ask them, how would you say this in your language? So where does the verb come? So by understanding that, I try to focus on like how would this person, he or she be taking this information? How would they be interpreting it? So by knowing that, then because I know these two languages, Turkish and Urdu, and it helps me to translate and rephrase the structure of the sentence so that it is understood or conveyed in a manner that is understood as its content in its proper reference, in its proper uh, context.
Interesting. Even listening to you, I always say to the people who come to the show, the sounds are a little different. And
Hmm.
because the sounds are different, it is important to speak slowly.
Yeah.
You've been saying academic, but in such a strange way, according to what I know. I'm like, okay, what is she saying? Oh, academic. I can figure it out, but
Hmm.
I'm listening closely.
Hmm.
Think about someone who's not used to listening closely, and
Hmm.
you're saying certain words, and you're like, I don't get it. What are you talking about?
Hmm.
It happens
So
slowly.
exactly. So before teaching them English, my very first class is all about helping them understand that unless there is an input, there won't be an output. Just like in one of the tele plays on Cinderella, it was like, I can't make something into something else, like nothing into something else. I need to have a pumpkin to change it into a carriage. In the
Right.
same way, in the same way, there needs to be an input, and input skills can be polished, and it comes from listening and reading. When we hear those words, when we hear those expressions, then we are able to speak, and then uh, we can become able to write it down. So if there is no input, there won't be an output.
Wow. I know that it's very late there and we need to close, but would you be willing to speak again on this? Because you're very
Sure.
valuable. Don't go anywhere. We're going to close the show for today. This is the first interview of many interviews that will be done in this group of English literacy. And you'll begin to understand the importance of English, the importance of listening. But more importantly, don't decide you know if maybe you don't completely understand. And a quick story from my side, there was a gentleman that I was talking to in English,
Mm-hmm.
doing an exercise that I was asked to do for a company.
Mm-hmm.
And he always asked for the topic ahead of time. And I'm like, there's no topic today. And he would go, what? How can we do it and not have a topic? And I said, let's see, we'll find out. And what came out of it was a very interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't understand. And he was able to prepare it. He was able to let it out, but he wasn't able to comprehend it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I became aware of it, I was like, oh my gosh. And then being a man, it was like, well, I know what I'm talking about. Are you telling me that you know more than the British Council? And I felt like saying, yeah, I am. But I realized that if I had said that, he wasn't going to get anything from it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't understand what was happening. And with that, guys, join the Shadow Ministry of Minister of English Literacy. And if you're an expert, let me know. If you're a teacher, I may have you to talk to. Shireen, let's say wave goodbye, but stay for a moment. Bye, everyone. I will be back. Not today, but I will be back.